Guys, we're going to start looking at chapter 13 now, which is kinetics. Let me just get the front sheet here. So we're going to move on into chapter 13, kinetics of a particle, force and acceleration. But before we get into the details, I just want to kind of do a quick overview. I'll do a much more thorough overview of kinematics in a future video, okay? I'll basically just do a video that's dedicated to reviewing chapter 12 in one video. Hopefully that might help. But in order for us to understand kinetics, which is chapters 13, 14, and 15, it's very important that you've got your basics down for kinematics, okay? So kinetics is based on kinematics. If you don't understand kinematics, your kinetics will really suffer a lot, okay? So it's very important that you revise chapter 12, kinematics. What is kinematics? Remember, with kinematics, we're only studying the motion of a particle, okay? Recall, what is a particle? It's an idealization of a body. It could be a car, it could be the earth, it could be a satellite, it could be a pen, it could be a piece of chalk, but it's an idealization and it has mass, okay? But it has no size and no shape, right? So we're only looking at kind of straight line motion. We're not looking at any rotational motion, okay? But the point is, with kinematics, we're only looking at the motion. We were only studying the position, the velocity, and the acceleration of this particle. So something caused that vehicle, that car, to move, to accelerate, for sure. Something caused it. But in chapter 12, kinematics, we weren't looking at what caused that motion. We were only looking at the motion itself, okay? So position, velocity, acceleration. Please recap that. And recall, we looked at two types of motion. The one was rectilinear, which was straight line motion. This is important because in chapter 13, we also look at straight line motion, but we look at it with regards to forces acting on a body that's causing straight line motion. We also, in chapter 12, we looked at curvilinear motion. Also, again, in kinetics, we're going to look at curvilinear motion, okay? So it's important that you recap this. And what did we see in curvilinear kinematics? We could analyze our problem using two different coordinate systems. One was a rectangular coordinate system. One was the normal and tangential coordinate system. Again, go and recap when we would use the different ones, okay? What we'll see mostly in chapter 13, which I'll get to in a future video, is that for straight line motion in chapter 13, we will mainly use this. We will mainly use the XY axes and a coordinate system. And then for curvilinear motion in chapter 13, we will mainly use the normal and tangential, okay? And then remember in chapter 12, we also looked at absolute dependent motion, which we looked at pulleys, okay? So guys, I know your time is tight, but I hope that you can recap this. I hope that you've got a solid foundation from chapter 12, okay? Now let's just quickly look at let's look at kinetics. Kinetics will now be covered in chapter 13, 14, and 15, okay? What is kinetics? What is it? Well, we will look at what causes the motion. With kinematics, we only looked at the motion, but now in kinetics, we are actually looking at the forces that cause the motion, all right? So in chapter 13, this idea, remember, this is the idea you need. This is the idea. What causes the motion? What's causing it? Well, in chapter 13, we analyze what causes it with respect to force and acceleration. In chapter 14, this idea will be seen with regards to work and energy. And in chapter 15, remember, this is the idea. What's causing the motion? We're going to look at impulse and momentum. Okay, so don't worry about all this. I'm just trying to give you a bit of a bird's eye view of the matter of kinetics. What causes the motion? Guys, when it comes to kinetics, this is where it's happening. This equation here, F equals ma, all right? So I'm sure we all know that. If you don't, perhaps you're studying the wrong degree, but everybody knows this one, okay? This is Newton's second law, okay? And it basically says that any unbalanced force will cause a particle to accelerate, okay? But I'll get more into that in detail. The basic idea with these problems, especially chapter 13, is that we either start with the forces, okay? We're given a problem and we are given the forces. And then we use the forces and we use this equation to solve for the motion. Basically, we use the forces and we solve for the kinematics. Does that make sense? We start here and we solve for the kinematic aspect of the problem. Or it's possible that we can start with the kinematics, okay? Meaning we start with this side of the problem and we are asked to solve that side, the forces, okay? Or we go back and forth. We start with the forces, then we calculate the kinematics, and then we use that information again to solve more problems regarding the forces, okay? So I hope that this is just a bridging between chapter 12 and 13 so that you kind of know where you're coming from and you know where you're going. Okay, I hope this helps. Cheers.